Commander Hayan pressed his face against the thick glass of the observation deck, watching Earth spin slowly below. The planet looked so peaceful from up here, like a blue and green jewel floating in the darkness of space. White clouds swirled across the surface, hiding the lands and oceans beneath. "What do you think of this one?" asked Captain Nara, walking up beside him with a datapad in her hands. She had been studying the scan results for hours, cataloging everything they found. "On this small world." "Looks quiet enough," Han replied, not taking his eyes off the planet. "Just another primitive world that hasn't figured out how to leave their own backyard yet." Nara scrolled through the information on her screen. "The locals call themselves humans. They've barely developed nuclear power, and they're still using chemical rockets to get into space. Most of their military technology is based on throwing pieces of metal at each other really fast. The Galactic Consortium had been doing surveys like this for over 1,000 years. They would find new worlds, study the species living there, and decide what to do with them. Most of the time, the aliens they found were so far behind in technology that they posed no threat to the mighty consortium. Their weapons are almost funny," Nara continued, showing him some footage they had recorded. "Look at this military exercise. They're using explosions to shoot metal bullets from tubes. Their flying machines need huge amounts of fuel just to stay in the air for a few hours." Hyun watched the small screen as human soldiers ran across a field, carrying weapons that looked incredibly crude compared to consortium technology. The humans were firing projectiles at targets, creating small puffs of smoke with each shot. Their vehicles moved on wheels and tracks, belching black smoke into the atmosphere. How do they even fight wars with equipment like that? Hayan wondered aloud. Our energy shields could stop anything they might shoot at us. One blast from our plasma cannons could destroy their biggest cities. The survey ship had been orbiting Earth for 3 weeks now, taking detailed scans of everything on the surface. They had mapped the human settlements, counted their population, and analyzed their technology. The results were always the same: another species that was nowhere near ready to join the galactic community. They do seem to fight each other, eh? Lot Nara observed, pulling up more data. There are conflicts happening all over their planet, but they're using such basic weapons that most battles involve just a few hundred casualties. Hayan nodded as he watched footage of human aircraft. The machines were crude, with spinning blades or simple jet engines. They couldn't even reach the edge of their atmosphere without using massive rockets that could only be used once. Compare that to consortium ships that could travel between stars in a matter of days. Their space program is particularly amusing, Nara said with a laugh. They consider it a major achievement to put a few people on their moon for a couple of days. Could build a city there in a month. The more they studied the humans, the less impressive they seemed. Their computers were primitive, their energy sources were dirty and inefficient, their transportation was slow and wasteful. Most importantly, their weapons technology was centuries behind what the consortium had developed. I almost feel sorry for them, Hayan said, finally turning away from the window. They're trying so hard to reach the stars, but they're using technology that we abandoned long ago. Should we make contact? Nara asked. Standard first contact protocol suggests. We could offer them membership in the consortium. Ewan considered this for a moment. The consortium did sometimes invite promising species to join them, but usually only after they had demonstrated some useful technology or resource. These humans had neither. What could they possibly offer us? He asked. Their weapons are useless. Their ships can barely leave their planet, and their industrial capacity is tiny compared to ours. We could take everything valuable from their world without breaking a sweat. Nara was already typing up the survey report. Classification: primitive species, non-threatening. Recommendation: monitor for 50 years, then consider for integration. Or resource extraction. Make sure to note their weapon systems. Hyun added. Command will want to know that they're still using kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Nothing that could possibly threaten a consortium vessel. As the survey ship prepared to leave Earth's solar system, automated monitoring stations were left behind to keep watching the humans. These devices would send regular reports back to Consortium Space, tracking human development over the coming decades. Where to next? Nara asked, as the ship's engines began powering up for the jump to hyperspace. Sector 7719, Heen replied, settling into his command chair. Another system with signs of primitive civilization. Hopefully they'll be more interesting than these humans. The stellar dawn engaged its faster-than-light drive and disappeared from Earth's solar system, leaving behind a world full of humans who had no idea they had just been judged and found wanting. The survey report would reach Consortium High Command in a few days, adding Earth to the long list of worlds that pose no threat to galactic civilization. In his final notes, Ewan wrote, "Species shows no potential for rapid advancement. Primitive. Ballistic weapons and chemical propulsion suggest they will remain confined to their home system for centuries. No immediate action required. Humans continued their daily lives below, completely unaware that their fate had just been decided by beings who saw them as nothing more than another backward species among the stars." Admiral Kwan stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the small blue planet that hung in space before him. 3 months had passed since the survey team had visited this world, and now it was time to add another species to the consortium's growing empire. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his tactical officer, Lieutenant Doe. The subjugation fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and over 40 smaller vessels. More than enough firepower to convince any primitive species to surrender without a fight. "Excellent," Kwan replied, settling into his command chair. "This should be over quickly." The survey report said these humans are still using metal bullets and chemical rockets. They won't even understand what they're facing. The fleet had dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, following standard protocol. They would approach slowly, make their demands, and wait for the inevitable surrender. Most species took one look at consortium technology and immediately agreed to join peacefully. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," announced Communications Officer Day. "They're asking what we want." Kwan smiled and straightened his uniform. "Put them through. Let's get this over with." The main screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human woman sitting behind a wooden desk. She looked calm and composed, not at all frightened by the massive alien fleet that had just appeared in her solar system. "This is President Min of Earth," she said in clear, measured tones. "We've detected your ships and would like to know your intentions." "I am Admiral Kwan of the Galactic Consortium," he replied, trying to sound official and intimidating. "We're here to offer your species membership in our great civilization. You can join us peacefully, or we will be forced to take more direct action." President Min was quiet for a moment, then smiled politely. "We appreciate the offer, Admiral, but humanity has decided to find its own path among the stars. We're not interested in joining your consortium." Kwan blinked in surprise. In all his years of commanding subjugation fleets, he had never heard such a calm refusal. Most primitive species either begged for mercy or immediately accepted consortium rule. "I don't think you understand," he said, his voice growing colder. "This is not a request. You will join the consortium, or your world will face the consequences." "We understand perfectly," President Min replied, "and our answer remains no." The transmission ended, leaving Kwan staring at a blank screen. Around him, the bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. No primitive species had ever refused the consortium so boldly. "Foolish creatures," Kwan muttered. "They have no idea what they're facing." "Tactical. Target their largest military base. Demonstration of our power should change their minds." Lieutenant Doe worked at his console, identifying targets on the planet below. "I have a lock on a facility built into a mountain, sir. It appears to be their primary military command center." "Perfect," Kwan said. "Charge the main plasma cannon. Let's show them what real weapons can do." The dreadnought's massive weapon began to glow with energy, crackling electricity running along its length. This cannon could destroy entire cities, with a single shot turning solid rock into molten glass. No primitive species had ever withstood such firepower. "Firing," Doe announced. A brilliant beam of pure energy lanced down toward Earth, aimed directly at the mountain facility. Kwan watched with satisfaction, knowing that this display would convince the humans to surrender immediately. But something strange happened. As the plasma bolt struck the mountain, it seemed to hit some kind of invisible barrier. The energy scattered and dissipated, causing no damage at all to the target below. "What just happened?" Quan demanded. "Did we miss?" "No, sir," Doe replied, confusion clear in his voice. "Direct hit, but something deflected our weapon. I'm reading some kind of energy field around their military installations." Before Quan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "Sir," shouted Sensor Officer back. "Multiple launches from the planet's surface. Hundreds of objects incoming." The main screen switched to tactical display, showing streams of projectiles rising from Earth's surface. They weren't energy weapons or plasma bolts like Consortium technology. Instead, they appeared to be simple metal objects, moving incredibly fast through space. "Those are just kinetic projectiles," Quan said dismissively. "Our shields will stop them easily." The first wave of missiles struck the fleet's energy barriers with tremendous force. But instead of bouncing off harmlessly, the impacts caused visible ripples across the shield systems. Several smaller ships actually staggered under the assault. "Possible," Quan breathed. "Their primitive weapons shouldn't be able to affect our shields at all." "Sir, second wave incoming?" Bat called out. "These readings are different. Much larger energy signatures." The next group of projectiles exploded in brilliant white flashes around the fleet. Nuclear warheads detonated in space, creating expanding spheres of superheated plasma. The Consortium ships shook violently as the atomic explosions overwhelmed their defensive systems. "How are they doing this?" Quan shouted over the noise of straining engines and overloading shield generators. The survey report said they only had primitive weapons. All across Earth's surface, hidden facilities were powering up. Missile silos that had been disguised as civilian buildings opened their doors. Underground bunkers revealed massive railgun installations. Even the ocean began launching projectiles as submarines fired their nuclear arsenals. Admiral Day called out, his voice shaking. "I'm detecting launch signatures from all over the planet. They've got weapons everywhere." Quan stared in horror. As his tactical display filled with incoming threats, the primitive humans had somehow turned their entire world into a fortress, and they were fighting back with devastating effectiveness. Deep beneath the bustling streets of Seoul, General Minho stood in front of a wall of glowing screens. The underground command center had been built in secret over many years, hidden from the eyes of the world above. As alien ships filled the space around Earth, it was finally time to reveal what humanity had really been preparing for. Operation Thunder Rain is now active, Minho announced to his staff. "All defense systems are online. Show our visitors what we're really capable of." Around him, dozens of operators sat at control stations, their fingers dancing across keyboards as they coordinated Earth's response. Each screen showed different parts of the battle unfolding in space above their heads. "First-wave missiles have launched successfully," reported Colonel Gina from her position at the tactical board. "Submarine crews are reporting all tubes fired. The Pacific Fleet alone has put over 200 nuclear warheads into space." Minho nodded grimly. For 30 years, humanity had been secretly preparing for this day. While the world thought they were building peaceful space stations and mining asteroids for resources, the truth was far different. Every project had been designed with one goal in mind: defending Earth from alien invasion. "Lunar batteries are firing," called out Major Wan from the communications desk. "The railgun installations on the far side of the moon are sending tungsten rods toward the enemy fleet. Impact in 47 seconds. The screen showed streams of projectiles rising. From Earth's oceans, launched by submarines that had been hiding in the deepest parts of the sea, these weren't the crude missiles that the aliens expected from a primitive species. Each warhead had been carefully designed and built, using the most advanced technology humanity could develop in secret. "Sir, civilian cargo ships are revealing their true nature," reported Captain Yoon. "The freighters in Earth orbit are opening their cargo bays. They're packed with kinetic kill vehicles." Minho allowed himself a small smile. Those civilian ships had been specially built for this moment. They looked like ordinary cargo vessels from the outside, but their holds were filled with hundreds of guided projectiles, each one designed to punch through alien hull armor. "Status on enemy shields?" Minho asked. "Fluctuating badly," Gina replied, studying her instruments. "The kinetic impacts are overloading their energy absorption systems. Their shields work great against plasma bolts and energy weapons, but they can't handle the physical impact of our projectiles. This was the key to humanity's strategy. The aliens had designed their defenses to stop the energy-based weapons that most advanced species used. But humans had perfected the art of throwing things really, really hard. When a tungsten rod hit an alien ship at several kilometers per second, no energy shield could absorb that kind of kinetic force. Asteroid mining platforms are joining the fight, announced Lieutenant Park. They're launching containers filled with explosives toward the enemy formation. The genius of the plan was becoming clear. Every piece of human space infrastructure had been designed with dual purposes. The asteroid mining ships that harvested metals from space rocks could also use those same rocks as ammunition. The orbital construction platforms that built satellites could just as easily build guided missiles. Enemy fleet is breaking formation, Gina observed. Several of their smaller ships are trying to retreat. Don't let them, Minho ordered. Launch Phase 2. Activate the deep space probes. All across the solar system, what the aliens had thought were simple exploration robots suddenly came to life. These probes had been disguised as scientific instruments, quietly moving through space for years. Now they revealed their true purpose as weapons platforms, firing kinetic projectiles at the retreating alien ships. The Mars orbital station is firing, reported one, using the mass driver to launch steel beams at the enemy command ship. Even the space elevator under construction had been weaponized. The massive cables stretched from Earth's surface into orbit, and the construction equipment at the top could launch building materials at incredible speeds. Steel beams and titanium plates became deadly projectiles when accelerated by the station's magnetic launchers. "Sir, we're getting reports from around the globe," Yoon called out. "Every hidden installation is firing. The Sahara Solar Array has revealed missile silos beneath the panels. The Antarctica research stations are launching from under the ice. Even the International Space Station has weapons." Minho watched the tactical display as thousands of projectiles converged on the alien fleet. Each one was relatively simple, just metal objects moving very fast through space. But together, they created a storm of destruction that no alien technology could withstand. "Their energy shields are failing completely," Gina announced. "Multiple enemy vessels are taking direct hits. Our whole armor can't stop our tungsten penetrators." The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity based on their energy technology and assumed that primitive kinetic weapons would be ineffective. They never considered that humans might perfect the art of making simple weapons devastatingly effective through precision, coordination, and overwhelming numbers. "Phase 3 is ready," one reported. "All manufacturing facilities are producing ammunition at maximum capacity. We can maintain this rate of fire for months if necessary." "Excellent," Minho replied. "Keep up the pressure. Show them that Earth's children don't surrender easily." Above their heads, the battle continued to rage as humanity's true industrial might was finally revealed. Every factory, every space station, every mining operation had been secretly preparing for this moment. The primitive species was showing the galaxy what human determination and ingenuity could accomplish when survival was at stake. Fleet. Admiral Tay had been traveling through hyperspace for 3 days. He was confident that he was rushing to help with a simple cleanup operation. The first reports from Admiral Kwan had mentioned some unexpected resistance, but nothing that a few more ships couldn't handle. Now, as his fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars, Tay stared in horror at what he found.
"This
"Can't be right," he whispered, looking at the tactical display, where there should have been a victorious consortium fleet orbiting a conquered Earth. Instead, he saw chaos. Burning alien ships drifted through space while streams of projectiles continued to pour from the small blue planet. Admiral called his communications officer, Lieutenant Rim. "I'm receiving distress signals from Admiral Kwan's fleet. Multiple ships are reporting critical damage. They're requesting immediate assistance." Tay couldn't believe what he was seeing. Half of the original subjugation fleet was either destroyed or badly damaged. The humans, who were supposed to be primitive and helpless, were somehow winning a space battle against superior alien technology. "How is this possible?" he asked his tactical officer, Commander Jin. The survey report said these humans were using metal bullets and chemical rockets. They shouldn't be able to threaten a single consortium ship, let alone an entire fleet. Sir, I'm detecting weapons fire from all over their solar system, Jin replied, his voice filled with disbelief. Not just from the planet. Their asteroid. Mining stations are launching explosive containers. Their communication satellites are moving to ram our ships. Even their space debris appears to be under remote control. As if to prove his point, a piece of what looked like an old satellite suddenly changed course and slammed into a nearby consortium destroyer. The impact wasn't powerful enough to destroy the ship, but it damaged the hull and sent the vessel spinning out of control. They've weaponized everything, Tay realized. Every piece of equipment in their solar system has been turned into a weapon. Major Sook's fighter squadron was returning from a patrol mission when they encountered the Human Defense Network. Her small, fast ships were supposed to be the elite of consortium military technology, equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields available. Squadron leader to control, Sook reported over the radio, were being engaged by human interceptors. They're firing some kind of micro-missiles at us. Micro-missiles? Tay asked. How small are we talking about? Each one is barely larger than my fist, Sook replied. But they're launching hundreds of them at once. My point defense systems can't track them all. Tay watched on his screen as the human fighters swarmed around Sook's squadron. The alien ships were individually superior, but the humans were using swarm tactics. Instead of trying to match consortium technology, they had built simple weapons that worked through overwhelming numbers. This is impossible, Jin muttered. They're using cargo ships as missile platforms. Look at this, that civilian freighter just opened up and launched 50 projectiles. The tactical display showed human vessels of all types joining the battle. Ships that looked like simple cargo haulers suddenly revealed hidden weapon bays. Construction vehicles turned their tools into kinetic launchers. Even passenger shuttles were firing guided rockets. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the human planet, Rim announced. It's from their military command. Put it through, Tay ordered. The screen showed a human general in a military uniform, standing in what appeared to be an underground command center. The man looked calm and confident, not at all like someone whose planet was under attack by a superior alien force. This is General Minho of Earth Defense Command, the human said. I'm offering you the same choice we gave your first fleet. Leave our solar system now, or face the consequences. You're in no position to make demands, Tay replied angrily. We have more ships, better technology, and superior firepower. General Minho smiled slightly. Admiral, you're thinking like every other advanced species we've studied, you assume? That complex technology is always better than simple solutions. But sometimes, the old ways work best. What are you talking about? Tay demanded. We've been preparing for this day for 30 years, Minho explained. While you were developing energy shields and plasma weapons, we perfected the art of making simple kinetic weapons devastatingly effective. Every factory, every mining operation, every space station in our system has been designed to produce and launch projectiles. As if to demonstrate his point, another wave of missiles launched from Earth's surface. But these weren't coming from military bases. They were launching from what looked like civilian areas, cities, industrial zones, even agricultural regions. You've turned your entire civilization into a weapons factory, Tay realized with growing horror. Not a factory, Minho corrected. A fortress. Every human installation can produce ammunition. Every piece of equipment can be used as a weapon. Every citizen knows how to fight. The human strategy was becoming terrifyingly clear. They hadn't tried to match alien technology. Instead, they had perfected the art of controlled chaos, using manufacturing capability, tactical coordination, and sheer determination to make primitive weapons more effective than advanced alien systems. Sir, Jin called out urgently. More. Human ships are approaching from the outer system. They appear to be mining vessels, but they're loaded with kinetic projectiles. Tay stared at the display as dozens of human ships converged on his position. Each one looked like a simple industrial vessel, but he now understood that appearances meant nothing when it came to these humans. They had turned their entire solar system into one massive weapon, and they were using it with devastating effectiveness. The Great Hall of the Consortium High Council had never seen such chaos. Emergency sessions were rare, and this one had been called with unprecedented urgency. Council members from dozens of different alien species filled the vast chamber, their voices creating a buzz of worried conversation. Admiral Quan stood at the center of the hall, his once pristine uniform now torn and blackened from the fires that had consumed his flagship. His left arm was in a medical brace, and burned scars covered one side of his face. The proud officer who had confidently set out to conquer Earth now looked like a broken man. "Honored Council," Quan began, his voice hoarse from smoke inhalation. "I stand before you to report the complete failure of Operation Swift Victory. The human species of Sol 3 has successfully repelled our subjugation fleet." A shocked silence fell over the chamber. In over 1,000 years of consortium expansion, no primitive species had ever successfully resisted their forces. The assembled council members stared at Quan in disbelief. "Explain," demanded High Counselor Vex, the ancient leader of the ruling body. "How did a species using primitive kinetic weapons defeat our most advanced fleet?" Quan straightened as much. "As his injuries would allow, honored counselor, we underestimated them completely. Yes, they use ballistic weapons and nuclear devices. But they have perfected these primitive technologies to a degree we never imagined possible." Fleet Admiral Tay stepped forward to stand beside Quan. His ship had survived the battle, but barely. "The humans have weaponized their entire solar system," he added. "Every asteroid mine, every space station, every piece of orbital debris has been turned into a weapon. They fight with a coordination and determination unlike anything in our military databases." "Impossible," scoffed Counselor Czar, representing one of the consortium's most militaristic species. "Primitive kinetic weapons cannot penetrate our energy shields." "That's what we thought too," Quan replied grimly. "But their weapons work differently than ours. Our shields are designed to absorb and deflect energy-based attacks. When a solid tungsten rod hits your ship at several kilometers per second, no energy field can stop the physical impact." The council chamber erupted in concerned voices. Species that had joined the consortium centuries ago began to whisper among themselves. If the mighty consortium fleet could be defeated by primitive humans, what did that mean for their own security? Furthermore, Tay continued, they demonstrated an industrial capacity far beyond what our surveys indicated. During the 6 hours of battle, they launched over 10,000 missiles from their planet alone. Their manufacturing systems were producing ammunition faster than we could destroy their launch sites. High Counselor Vex raised his hand for silence. "What are your recommendations?" "Immediate reclassification of Sal 3 as a high-threat military power," Quan stated firmly. "These humans should be approached with extreme caution, if at all. They have proven that primitive technology can be devastatingly effective when properly applied." The news of the consortium's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than their fastest ships. On thousands of worlds, species that had been conquered and absorbed into the Empire began to talk in hushed voices about the small blue planet that had made their overlords bleed. On Earth, President Min stood before the assembled representatives of humanity in the United Nations building. Through the windows behind her, the night sky was filled with glowing streaks, the remains of alien ships burning up in the atmosphere as they fell toward the planet. "Citizens of Earth," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the globe. "Through television and radio broadcasts, today we faced our greatest test as a species. An alien empire came to our world, demanding our surrender. We showed them that humanity bows to no one." The crowd in the assembly hall erupted in cheers. Around the world, people celebrated in the streets as they realized they had successfully defended their planet against beings from the stars. "General." Minho stepped up to the podium beside the president. His weathered face showed the strain of coordinating humanity's defense, but his eyes were bright with victory. "For 30 years, we prepared for this day," he said. "We turned every factory into an armory, every space station into a fortress, every piece of equipment into a potential weapon, The aliens thought we were primitive because we used bullets instead of laser beams. President Min continued. Learned too late that sometimes the old ways of fighting are the most effective. A missile doesn't care how advanced your energy shields are. A tungsten rod doesn't need complicated technology to punch through alien armor. Across the galaxy, other species were receiving reports of humanity's victory. The consortium's member worlds, many of them conquered through force, began to look at their human neighbors with new eyes. If these supposedly primitive beings could defeat the Empire's fleets, perhaps resistance was possible after all. In the Outer Rim territories, rebel groups that had been fighting hopeless battles against consortium rule suddenly found new hope. The humans had proven that advanced technology wasn't everything. Determination, ingenuity, and the willingness to use any available weapon could overcome seemingly impossible odds. We are no longer alone among the stars, President Min concluded her address. Today, Earth takes its place in the galaxy, not as subjects of an empire, but as free people who have earned respect through strength. The universe has learned that humanity will fight for its freedom with everything we have. The small blue world had become something the mighty consortium had never expected to face, a species that turned their supposed weakness into devastating strength, proving that sometimes primitive weapons and human determination were more powerful than all the advanced technology in the galaxy.